Welcome back to our community. Susie Thomas visiting with Becky Thomas, no relation, but how exciting now to have a new sister in the Lord. So we're related in that way. You said something that I want to go back to. You mentioned an accountability partner. How important, as you're walking through something like this, when you have a really big challenge that you're facing, another person to hold your hand along the way, how important is that, Becky?
Very important.
Tell me why.
I can't stress it enough. But go with one that is at your spiritual level and beyond so that they can lift you and elevate you when you're low. You know, I had a couple, but, she was the main one. I also had a friend, Karina. She was the one that went to Israel and got me, it was amazing. But you do have to have these people in your life because when you get hit with another, oh, you have it here, or this is happening in your life. You need somebody to run to, vent to, and they say, okay, get back up, and start doing what you need to do. Because if you don't, and they go into, the pity thing, I don't like it.
No, that's not the way to help.
No. You might want it. It might feel good at the time, but in the long run, it's just not healthy.
How do we be that person for someone?
Oh, geez. How? I think through the love of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
I think God draws us to people, and through his love, he knows who connects with who at that particular time, who we need in our lives. Sometimes people are only in our life for a season. There's a reason for it.
Yes.
I think in the natural world, in our human sense, that we want to hang on to everybody that we meet, and sometimes they're not supposed to stay. And accountability partners, I think they last a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. It seems that there would be all kinds of things, and probably I'm going to answer my own question, that you need to prayerfully go into being that person for someone, because there would be physical needs, sometimes a meal, sometimes, just a little fun pick-me-up gift just because. And then sometimes there's definitely praying together. You mentioned anointing with oil and having a time of very serious and deep prayer where you're really connecting.
Oh, yes.
All those things are important when you're walking through. And is it necessary for someone to have been through it themselves, or can you be that person for someone when...
I think it's the compassion of the heart.
Yes.
I think when you have walked through something, I think that's why God gives us these experiences or allows them to happen so that we can minister to other people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And put us in paths of strangers even. I have talked to strangers about it. Mm-hmm. They will I'll be in an elevator and somebody will talk about the C word to me and I'll be like, can I pray with you?
Yes.
And they just look at me but they're always willing vessels. They'll always say yes. I've never had anybody turn down a prayer. Never.
Well, isn't that the truth? And, when we are facing mortality, I think that does wake up people, shake up people who might not otherwise have been open to something like that. But
absolutely.
Who's going to turn down somebody praying for them? It seems like whether or not they believe wholeheartedly,
right?
They're like, it's like chicken soup, can't hurt,
Exactly. And it's good for the soul,
it's
right?
It's always good for the soul. And then, they availeth much then, and a lot comes from that. And
Amen.
What a great way to bring other people into the love of Jesus. That
absolutely.
Starting with, oh, you're hurting in this way. You mind if I pray with you?
Right.
You're more than not going to get
right.
Sure.
Friends will come up and say, I have this person, a sibling, aunt, uncle, whoever, can you pray for them? Absolutely. We'll pray. We'll get a prayer cloth. Can't tell you how many I wore on my body.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I had 7 plus my dad's handkerchief. I wore them daily.
Tell me about that handkerchief. Where is it now?
I have it in the 7 prayer cloths in a Ziploc bag. I still have them.
And how do you use that?
How do I use that? Mm-hmm. That's a huge testimony in itself.
Well, we've got some time, so tell me.
But I mean, it was, I accumulated these as my walk increased. Every time I would get one, it was for another reason in my journey. So every single one means something, but the most important one was the prayer cloth or the handkerchief from my father.
that went into the Jordan
that
River.
went into the Jordan River. And to finish off that story, in April, when my friend Karina got the video of her baptism, that's when I found out what actually was prayed for over the handkerchief. And she had Jordan River water, and we went into her hot tub, and I got baptized yet again with Jordan River water. She poured it over my head, and I said, all I need is one drop, because the story behind the Jordan River baptism was, and this happened back in August, prior to her even going to Israel, when she was telling me what they were going to do on this trip, I said, oh, I want to do that. So every time I would say, or anybody else would say, Jordan River, I would get chills from head to toe.
Wow.
Every time, in any context. A friend of mine, Paula, we were in a canoe together, and she turned around and goes, Jordan River water, and I would, so that's the power of God.
Oh, yes.
And our desires, our heart's desires, and he fulfills them. And sometimes in the most unique ways.
Absolutely. I must know the response of the doctors, where 6 months. Here's someone who's compliant to a point, and that not really doing everything we're suggesting.
This is funny,
but she means well.
Absolutely.
And we certainly, the doctors certainly all mean well.
Absolutely.
They only wanted you to be better.
Only better.
But
right.
then they're seeing you get completely better in a completely different way.
I had the first oncologist I had. After test results came back that it wasn't there in certain areas in my body. She actually physically, and I had my friend Cindy sitting with me, actually physically scratched her head in bewilderment, not knowing, and this is a person that told me that they were a Christian, and
Sure.
there was no such thing as miracles in the Western world, only over in India. That's what she told me.
Well, wasn't this a good learning experience
Yes.
for everyone
Yes.
involved?
Yes.
So physically scratched her head.
Physically
don't you love it?
scratched her head, and she, and and me and my friend were like nudging each other and touching our feet, like, look, are you listening?
Oh, that
Because
had
it
to
was
be
funny,
such a hallelujah
because
moment.
she couldn't understand where it went, and even though she proclaimed what she did to me,
Yes.
because
So she acknowledged it's not there.
it's not there.
It's not there.
It's
Where'd
not
it
there.
go?
Where'd it go? So because of the medical field, she felt that she needed to do something. So she wrote me a script for tamoxifen, which they give after everything is said and done. It's like a blocker,
Okay.
and I said, okay.
Just to make sure that it wouldn't come back or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
So I still have the prescription unfilled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I almost lost it once. A friend and I, Paula, we were in a movie theater, and we were leaving, and she couldn't find her phone. She looked, I looked, she looked, I looked in her purse, everywhere, couldn't find it. So she went back into the movie theater. I had lost that prescription, and that's why she lost her phone. Her phone wasn't in the movie theater. My prescription was.
Oh, and you found it
And when
again.
she came back, she opened her purse, and there was her phone.
And you keep it as a reminder.
I absolutely, just like the prayer clause.
Look what God has done.
Just like I have a folder full of all the tests that they did to me. It's probably a good inch thick,
Yes.
Becky,
this is so encouraging to so many people. They're hearing you and they're saying, yes, I'm just going to begin to walk in the way that God is leading me. But again, let's rehearse this. Let's say this again.
Yes.
In no way are we saying that doctors are doing this against the Bible. No. Doctors are trained in what they know to be able to help, and many
uses
times
doctors.
Absolutely, God uses doctors and the training and the treatments that
Absolutely.
they prescribe, and every single time, no matter whether it is with doing chemo, doing radiation,
Right.
taking the blocker, every single time, it's God doing the healing, and that's what
Absolutely.
that's we are saying. Sometimes He uses all those things, and sometimes He takes a shortcut and says, this time I'm just going to make it go,
Right.
because He's God and He can.
Right.
And who's to say why He decides this time He's going to do it this way, and this time He's going to do it another way? Did you ever ask Him, wow, why me in 6 months, and wow, and it's been 10 and a half years now?
Yeah. I was not seeing some things in my life a few years back, actually. And I had talked to my friend Cindy, and I said, I don't know why God healed me. And she goes, well, you silly, because you asked him to. There it is. That's as simple as that. I never asked again.
I think he also knew you're the kind that would not be quiet about it.
No.
This is what's so fun, is to be able to just give a testimony.
Yeah.
Somebody's struggling with whether or not there is a God. Well, let me tell you what happened to me.
Yeah.
And then you decide. He uses that.
How can you not?
Yes.
How can you not know that there's a God? Just look outside. The sun's shining. It's a beautiful day. The clouds are gorgeous. You know what I mean? How can you not? How can you not? It's not just about having something and God healing you of it. It's about how much he truly loves us.
Yeah.
He loves us so much. Look, he died for us. Look at all that he did. Could we even do one of the things that he did? I couldn't. No. I couldn't.
What would you say to the person who's listening right now and they are really discouraged because they've had a terrible diagnosis? What would you say to that one?
I can only tell you what I did. I fell to my knees. I cried out to God. I mean, there's certain, ways you can pray. I was prostrate on the floor crying out to God, and he spoke to me in my spirit. And from that day on, I knew I was going to fight. My ex-husband, at the time I was diagnosed with pancreatitis. So my youngest son came down and told me, and he said, Mom, he goes, I'm going to lose both my parents. That was also a turning point for me, because we fell to the ground, hugging each other, crying, and I said, son, I'm not going anywhere. So you've got to decide what you're going to do, and then God will follow your lead.
That kind of goes along with my next question. You have 5 children, 9 grandchildren.
I do.
Their reaction to all of this has been what, Becky?
Remarkable. They tell my testimony to people. They really do, which is just a blessing for me, that they can actually pass something along, and it has elevated their faith. Like I told my one son what I was doing today, and he was like, Mom, that's so awesome. So he's going to try to listen and stuff when,
Shout out to him.
Yeah. Jeff, love you, baby. But I love them all. I love them all. They are remarkable men and women. They do love the Lord. Their walks are not always the same. Just like my grandbabies, yesterday at Easter, one of my youngest, Ellie, she goes, we need to pray over the cake. Okay, we're praying over cake.
Awesome.
Awesome. And that just warms your heart when,
yes.
When you know something has been passed on, and that's God.
And isn't that our job, to raise up the next generation of praisers?
Yes, because they're more powerful than we are, But,
yes.
I have to say this, that the doctor that I started with is the one that really finished my testimony. He's an amazing man. He listened to what I said. He treated not just me personally because he knew me. He treated all of me, and he respected everything. He respected the way I wanted to walk. I was praying. I said, Lord, I just want a doctor to really just say that you did it, and he did.
And you've got one saying it.
Yep.
Do you wonder if God still does miracles today? We got to meet somebody today to say, yes, indeed. Becky Thomas, thank you for joining us in our community.
Oh, thank you, Susie.